All right, that moves us to item 8, review of Ports Area Mobility Study Scope. Hans Michael Ruthe. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about this. And though this is perhaps a different topic, it's still related to safety. That's a critical conversation in our region. It's something that staff thinks about in everything that we do. So I appreciate hearing y'all's discussion on that. At any rate, I'm here to talk to you this morning about 2 exciting 2016 new freight planning initiatives that we're getting started. The first is the Ports Area Mobility Study, and the second is a new forum for freight interests called the Greater Houston Freight Council. Both of these initiatives are recommendations originally in their current concept from the Regional Goods Movement Plan, which was funded by TPC, supported throughout its study effort, and adopted by TPC in early 2013. We really appreciated your leadership in this area. We wanted you to know that your work is paying off. First of all, the Ports Area Mobility Study, the image of which you see on the screen right now, taken from the Goods Movement Plan, will seek to more directly and efficiently connect the ports in our region to emerging markets without having to traverse the urban core. We'll use this opportunity to respond to stakeholder comments, requesting the investigation of a universe of improvement alternatives for this work. The tasks for this study you see before you will include a general update to our understanding of what's going on the ground, an update to our analytical capacity and our tools for understanding this need, and also, like I mentioned before, the identification of some different improvement strategies. And this will cover things like the port connector route idea, also other non-roadway improvements. It'll incorporate the other modes that are very important to goods movement in this region, and hopefully, depending on pending the results of that analysis, lead us to a unified consensus regarding how to move forward, not only to support the wonderful economic development we observe today, but also set the stage for its sustained success in the future of this critical, particular regional economic engine. The scope of work for this study is available for your review and comment in the background paper as a link. The RFP to procure consultant services and the assistance in the execution of this contract will be released imminently, and we'll be coming back to you with updates as needed. The second I mentioned is this matter of the Greater Houston Freight Council. And the idea here basically is in response to repeated requests from stakeholders since the adoption of the Goods Movement Plan to try to integrate private sector goods movement concerns into the planning process up front. We get great response from the private sector and the goods movement, I would say, representatives today, but too often it's in a reactionary way. It's something that we've decided or we've recommended, and we get their response. Better than nothing, but why not take opportunity to involve them in the initial steps of the sequence. This is a recommendation that was repeated by the State Freight Mobility Plan. It also was mentioned in the recently adopted federal bill, the FAST Act. So we would use this opportunity to involve a wide, diverse group of stakeholders from across the region. It would be membership intended not to exclude anyone from participation, voluntary attendance based on the invitation, and it would be led, shepherded even by a small group of executive committee members who would set the agenda and the tone. And the TPC is critical in their involvement of this, not only because hopefully I'm speaking to some of these prospective future executive committee members right now, but also because your participation is the endorsement we need for the private sector and other stakeholders we may not get to see as much to be involved. And so this would also be outcome and task focused in its gatherings so that we could not only sustain interest from participants, but also begin to deal with some of these more critical issues, such as the ones you see listed here on the slide. Actually, something came out after the mail-out was sent. We green sheeted it today for your information. That would be another example of the types of things that this group would help us deal with. Currently, we don't have a venue focused on the freight perspective to help address these things. And this is a very exciting opportunity to begin to confront these issues. The current concept is that they would meet regularly, perhaps 4 times a year, and hopefully 2 meetings in 2016. And they would give us a way to elevate the representation of commercial goods movement in the planning process and help us make sure that we're considering these important stakeholders in the decisions we make. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll be happy to discuss this further, answer any questions, not only right now, but at the request of you all, at your convenience, at your offices. It's something we're very excited about, and we look forward to informing you and updating you about in the future as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans Michael. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Patterson.
My only comment is, if you go back to your first map, as many of you are aware, Missouri County and Fort Bend County and the Port of Freeport looking at some possibilities of bringing stuff up through Fort Bend County, and I don't see anything on your map or even a dotted line, so it would become a part of the study. Not saying it's successful or not, but is that light green line there? Is that what that is?
Sir, I just meant for this image to be representative of the idea itself. I didn't mean for it to define any outcome.
My trifocals didn't catch that green line the first time.
Trifocals.
Mostly I was trying to keep my eyes above Miss Longoria as I spoke.
Better not to say anything.
You won't get to talk, so go ahead.
We digress. Do we have any other questions? Hans Michael.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to emphasize the fact that we now have a notice from the federal government about the availability of this funding opportunity for freight that's around the corner. In the material that you have, it gives you not only some description of the funds available, but an outline of the proposals they are looking for. Interestingly, they've set a minimum threshold of $100 million. Of course, that means you have to bring about half of that money to the table from other resources. But I hope that you will begin to think about this. If you have, we'll be scouring our plan and the projects that we already know of that are under development to see which would be a good opportunity. We will reach out proactively to any of you that may have a project of that nature to see if you'd like to consider developing a proposal. It is a federal discretionary program that is being discussed. So we only win if we have a great freight-based program that meets important needs and is supported locally. TxDOT is also discussing how it will implement the state portion of freight program. And although Hans didn't mention it, I know this committee is well aware of the new state freight plan, and it does have identified in it some strategic investments as well. So I don't believe that we have a deadline identified in this material.
The announcement, the official notice of funding available should come out this month in February.
And the official notice will give us more details about the proposal process and when things are due and who and to whom. But I do want to give you a heads up because we want to. I would be ashamed if the second largest freight area in the country does not have good projects to be considered for this funding opportunity.
And staff is available. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how many people you would envision being on the executive committee of the freight department.
We're open to discussion on that. I think stakeholders such as yourself would know better than us how that should look. Depending on the size of the committee, it seems that anywhere from 5 to 10 would be appropriate. That's just my opinion, though.
Okay. I'm sure it will be a very simple process. Some of Commissioner Raddick's sarcasm there. I'm sorry. It's catching.
Appropriate.
Thanks, Hans. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.